It's the dumbest bill in America, and it is the Hawaii ghost gun ban. You heard that right. It's the Hawaii ghost gun ban introduced by Senator Carl Rhodes. To be fair, he's the advocate for banning ghost guns, and there are others who have put their names on this bill, but as a leader in the Senate in Hawaii, the state Senate, he is pushing this. So it's Senate Bill 2151, introduced this year by Senator Carl Rhodes of Hawaii, and it's called the Hawaii Ghost Gun Ban. So we have 3 clips from Senator Carl Rhodes, and we're going to discuss this. This is a really important issue. First of all, he's going to tell us about what a ghost gun is. This is he being State Senator Carl Rhodes of Senate Bill 2151. Here's the first of 3 clips. Here it is.
What about ghost guns? Are we going to try to, what are they, and are we going to try to do something to stop it?
Well, ghost guns are guns that probably most people are aware now that there's something called a 3D printer. So instead of making a copy of a flat piece of paper, you can copy whatever the physical thing is. You could copy.
It's amazing. You can do that.
Yeah, you could copy a couch. You could copy a CD, an iPhone or something like that.
So there you go. He's defining for you what a 3D printer is and what a ghost gun is. So a 3D printer is a printer that actually uses the printing technology to actually make things, physical things, not just copy a piece of paper, obviously. It's actually making something. And there's the not just possibility, but the actual reality that a 3D printer can now make the parts of a gun, if not an entire gun, that can ultimately be assembled and be a functioning gun. And so the Democrats have very cleverly called these ghost guns because, of course, it's always about scaring people rather than calling it 3D printed guns. You know, that would probably make a lot more sense because it would be based on science rather than trying to scare people. But Senator Carl Rhodes of Hawaii wants to ban these. And he's going to explain this a little bit in his next clip before we go to discussion. And here is the clip.
There are, unfortunately, there is software has been invented to do that for guns as well. There are ongoing court cases about it, and there's actually a federal injunction saying that the company that's doing the software cannot put it out there. Injunctions like that are also hard to enforce. So
right. Once it's on the internet, how do you take it down?
I suspect that somewhere in the dark corners of the internet you could find them, even though there's an injunction against it.
Oh my gosh, people might make their own guns, according to State Senator Carl Rhodes. Well, let's read what the Second Amendment actually says in the Bill of Rights, right?
I got it right here.
Let's hear it.
So, a well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed.
Shall not be infringed. So let's think about this for a minute. We have people rioting in the streets of the United States of America in major cities, and major business districts in major cities are literally boarded up and in some cases destroyed, many blocks destroyed. Many of these businesses not coming back, people feeling unsafe. I have personal friends in the nation's capital who want to sell their condo because they walk out their door and they feel fundamentally unsafe, and they live in a great area, but took the risk. And they're young. They're millennials themselves. And so then we have a Democrat Party who clearly wants to stack the court, the Supreme Court, which we were talking about briefly before. And in so doing, one of the things they want to do is what? They want to basically try to find a way of getting rid of and putting the kibosh on the Second Amendment. And of course, State Senator Carl Rhodes of Hawaii, in the ghost gun ban, as he calls it, what he wants to do is basically say, well, this is just one more way you can use to protect yourself by making your own gun. And in normal times, we could have an intelligent discussion about this particular issue, and you could talk about gun registration, we could talk about training and so forth. But because of the extremists on the Democrat side who basically want clearly to get rid of the Second Amendment, they want to stack the Supreme Court, I could never support a ban. I just could never support a ban because they are showing me more than ever why there is a Second Amendment. Thoughts on this? My COS friends.
The First Amendment, pretty clear on what it says in there, right? Freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, freedom to petition, freedom of religion, etc. But they made the second one right after the most important one. They made the second one the one to protect the first one. They made the Second Amendment so that every citizen can own a firearm in order to protect their rights.
Protect themselves and protect their property.
Absolutely.
So go ahead. What do you think?
I think some people read into the Second Amendment that it's in there for us to overthrow the government if we need to. I think there's more of the case that the framers put it in there because at some point maybe the government shouldn't be depended upon to protect us all the time and can't protect us all the time. So it's our right to be able to do that. And I think that gets lost in a lot of Second Amendment debate, that it's really not, it's about us as individuals able to protect ourselves without the help of anyone else. And I'm afraid that gets lost. The 3D printing aspect of it, Mark, I think he's looking at this as a way to not just, it's a stepping stone to something else that they want a gun registry. I think 3D printed guns, they probably don't have a serial number. Maybe he could have just come up with some legislation to make sure the software can be used once. I don't know, I'm not a technical person that way, but each one, when it's used, gets a serial number. I think there's other ways to accomplish what he says he's trying to accomplish, which makes me very skeptical that he's not trying to accomplish what he says he's trying to accomplish.
So that's a great segue into what the bill actually says is it makes it a Class C felony in Hawaii to purchase, manufacture, or otherwise obtain firearm parts for the purpose of assembling a firearm that has no serial number, amends certain requirements relating to firearms registration. So really, he's not interested in registering these firearms. He wants to ban them because he's making a felony to possess them to begin with. And so if he really wanted gun control, which is what he initially claimed that he wanted, then he would have put a registration requirement in. Yeah, you can make your own gun, you have to register it, right?
Yeah, Mark, I think that makes a ton of sense. And I will tell you that I've been looking into purchasing a firearm myself for home defense recently, over the last couple of, frankly, months now. And I can't get one, not because I can't get one with my background checks. I have a perfect background record, because they're just not available. Right?
They're sold out.
They're sold out. Very few are in stores. I mean, there are some. You can buy one, but you have to settle for whatever they have in store. If there's one particular one you want, or just a genre of ones you want, they're not available. And so, I mean, I don't have an opinion on 3D printed guns yet. I haven't put enough thought into that whole system and idea. But like I said, I can't get the gun that I want.
Which is fascinating, because I also hear that about ammo. That ammo is very, very difficult to get.
Or very expensive.
Or very expensive, and
both.
There's a almost kind of like a waiting list for the ammo, which is really kind of odd, I gotta tell you. So this is the Hawaii ghost gun ban, Senator Carl Rhodes, SB 2151. He wants to just ban them. And so podcast listeners, we're leading up to this. Here is the third of 3 clips from State Senator Carl Rhodes, who's really gonna tell you now what he thinks about the Constitution of the United States. And here it is.
The federal Constitution has been interpreted to mean that you have an individual right to own a firearm. I think that decision is suspect because of what the amendment actually says. And there's a reference to a militia in there. I'm not sure. I think it's kind of ambiguous as to what it means, but it means something. So I don't know yet whether I think most of the country is still very much, there are big swaths of the continent that they love their guns. They're not going to give them up no matter what. There are other places.
So if you're listening to this guy really closely, really what he's saying initially is, he's just really afraid of ghost guns. That's why he gives it that really scary name of ghost guns. And then you listen more and more through his clips, and you realize he doesn't believe in the Second Amendment because it talks about a militia, and he's not really sure if the Second Amendment relates to arming a militia. So read that again. What does the Second Amendment say?
A Second Amendment, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed.
Shall not be infringed. Shall not be infringed. And we have with us in this podcast and in this dumbest bill in America two members of the Convention of States, which is so concerned about the Constitution of the United States being overwhelmed and overturned because of people like State Senator Carl Rhodes, who doesn't think that there is really a Second Amendment that applies to the people.
Yeah, the one thing I was disappointed to hear in that clip was he said there's a reference to militia. You know, if you're going to make an argument about your side of the opinion of this controversy, have the reference in front of you. I've read it twice now, and I'm going to read it again if I have to. But I'm also reading, just so happened you mentioned this, you brought it up today, I'm reading One Vote Away by Ted Cruz. And the third chapter in there is about gun rights, and it specifically
the One Vote Away refers to the United States Supreme Court.
Yeah, many cases on the Supreme Court have been decided by a single vote. So that's who's on the Supreme Court actually matters. And so reading through the book, it talks about the Second Amendment and the wording in here. And the founders put the first part of it, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. That is just a prefatory explanation of what is about to be established. That's all it is. What is established is the right of the people, and the founders mean the phrase, the right of the people, to mean individual rights. And it is also not only in the Second Amendment, it is in other places of the Constitution. And so oftentimes people will say individual right in this place, individual right in this place, but not individual right in the Second Amendment. It is an individual right. And what is that individual right? The right to bear arms shall not be infringed by the government.
Perfect. And here you are, a stellar citizen, right, with a great record, and
well,
you can't even...
stellar is questionable.
You can't even buy a gun because of, presumably, the demand for guns, because of what's happening in the streets of America. And then Carl Rhodes, State Senator Carl Rhodes of Hawaii, saying, well, you know, there's a loophole in that whole gun buying thing, and the loophole is technology is allowing people to make their own guns, so we're going to shut that down and make it a felony to even do that. And so you can understand why people who really support the Constitution of the United States, like the COS people, the Convention of States people, which both of you are Convention of States leaders here in the great state of Maryland, but Convention of States is nationwide, you guys are fighting this great fight to let people understand what people like Carl Rhodes and the other Democrats actually think about the Constitution of the United States. Final thoughts on this from both of you.
Law-abiding citizens follow the law, right? So there's no reason, at least as far as the Second Amendment question goes, there's no reason to infringe the right of the people to bear arms.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I would say when you take guns away from law-abiding people, you're not taking them away from the people who are already breaking the law.
Perfect. And that's the Hawaii. Go ahead.
And I was just going to say, and Mark, I know you're concluding here, so I just wanted one final thank you for letting us join you on the podcast.
Absolutely.
A little plug for episode 105. You want to hear us talk about Convention of States again?
Very good.
ConventionofStates.com is our website if you want more information about our movement, right? There's a lot more we could talk about. There's even a Maryland-specific version of it if you put a /Maryland at the end.
And that's the dumbest bill in America, which is the Hawaii ghost gun ban. And good old State Senator Carl Rhodes of Hawaii, who doesn't believe that the Second Amendment gives you the right to keep and bear arms. Just unbelievable. And that's it from Mark and the Millennials. Thank you for joining Mark and the Millennials. This is Mark Fisher. Thank you to Stephen Patton, State Director of Convention of the States, and Matthew Rayberg, also a volunteer at the Convention of States, and of course our producer, Adam Couture, our assistant producer, Christopher Hopkins. Check us out on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and our website. See you next time.